Hello everybody, this is Miss Padrick, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we're going to be talking and learning about in 7th grade geography this year. The last couple of days we've been working on the Planet Colony project, and in your groups you were working through 4 different stages. Stage 1, you landed on the planet and you selected the best place to develop your colony. Stage 2 was 15 to 25 years later, and you had actually developed the land and created a city or a town or a village. Stage 3, 50 years later, you had developed systems to maintain order and create a united society. And stage 4, over 100 years later, you had decided on ways to preserve that society. Well, those 4 stages basically correlate to the topics that we're going to be discussing this year in geography class. The physical features, the economic activity, the government, and the history and culture of the different regions of the world and each of the units that we're going to be covering this year. So let's talk about what that is going to look like. Physical features. We will start each unit with maps. And we're going to work at our own pace to master those maps. You'll have some apps on your iPad, we'll do some practice in class, we'll talk about mnemonic devices, and occasionally over time I'll offer pop quizzes or we'll do review games, and you'll have the opportunity to test out when you're ready. You'll also have the opportunity, if you're not satisfied with a quiz score, to study with me, feel confident, and then retake that information. We're really going to work this year on visualizing the vocabulary and finding specific examples. Rather than learning our vocabulary in isolation in a set of vocabulary terms, instead we're going to find specific examples in each of the units that we study. So when we study Asia, I will challenge you to look at the map and find vocabulary terms that we have not yet seen. So instead of learning archipelago, reef, bay at the beginning of the year, we will be adding to our collective understanding with words like archipelago when we realize that Japan is an archipelago. We're going to be talking about economic activity. Now, there is a formal study of the economic systems and structures in different societies. That's going to come at another time. Whether you talk about command economy versus free market, you may have heard the terms communism and capitalism. There will be time to study those specific terms in more detail at a later date in another class. But for our purposes, we need to understand that while economic activity is different than a government system, they're very closely linked. The government often regulates the economic activity, supports it in each different society. What we're really going to focus on as well is the fact that economic activity is what people have done, what they are doing, or what they can do in the future to make a living. You'll hear the terms goods and services or products and services. These are the things that people can actually make with the natural resources that are around them, or the services that they can provide. Internet service isn't necessarily a tangible item. It's bits and bytes that float through the air that we can then use a machine to turn into websites and information. But what we're also going to be looking at is the consequences of these activities. What are the consequences of certain economic activities to a society and to the environment? So a lot of interesting questions that we'll be asking in terms of economic activity. We're also going to be talking about government, and while there are a whole list of different government systems that have developed over time in different societies, what we're really going to focus on is who's in charge, how do decisions get made, and what are the consequences for individuals and for groups. Is there more freedom, less freedom for the government, or for individual citizens in that government? What we're also going to be exploring is having the opportunity to debate what the U.S. role or position internationally is, and perhaps even start to question what it should be or what it could be in terms of U.S. relations with different parts of the world. We're also going to look at the history and culture of all of the different places and regions that we'll be studying. We really want to be able to understand where people have come from in their life experiences, both their personal lives as well as the experiences of the society that they grow up in. And we also want to look at how groups have changed or adapted over time. We want to know what makes the many places and times in Earth's history unique. But then we also want to know what common characteristics or what things bring people together over time and place. We may find that there's more similarities with ancient civilizations than with different parts of our country or our world right now in present day time. And finally, we really want to know, do we learn from our past mistakes? Can we look at history and try not to repeat the same mistakes from the past? Finally, I'm excited about developing a quad blogging project. I have done a lot of my own studying over the summer and done some work with some technology, and quad blogging basically means 4 blogs that are going to come together. So 4 different classes are going to connect, and we're going to work on a rotation, a weekly rotation. 1 week, 1 class will be responsible for creating all the posts that will appear on our blog. And then we'll have 3 weeks to respond to other posts. So we'll be able to develop a conversation over the course of a 4-week rotation. And over the course of the entire year, we're really going to be exploring the question of what motivates people. Is it the common good? Is it what's best for everybody? Or is it more individual self-interest or individual success? I think that we're going to find that as we study each of the different regions and cultures and historical times this year in 7th grade, we're going to realize that this question isn't necessarily so simple. And at different times and in different places, the motivation for people can definitely change. But the inspiration for this project came from one of the classes I took this summer. It was called How to Change the World through Wesleyan University. And one of the things that we read was The Penguin and the Leviathan, which was written by Yochai Benkler in 2010. And so we'll be pulling some readings, and we'll basically be taking the different units and the different time periods that you're learning about, and we'll try to respond to this question given those specific examples. So I'm really looking forward to this project, and I hope you're really looking forward to a great year in geography.